Hi, Luke Carlson of Ellis Carlson Law. Welcome back to the show. I have my beautiful wife, Jenny Carlson.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. And today we have a very special edition. I'm not going to give away the surprise. I'll let you do that.
All right, we have I guess it's the family version of the HOA Holiday Special.
Yes. So let's talk about how this came about.
Wait, before we even go anywhere, let's talk about your sweater real quick.
Okay. Happy to do so. I don't know. I hope most people can recognize it. It's a Die Hard sweater.
Well, and if you're just listening, it's a Die Hard Christmas sweater. Do we call it a Christmas movie? Have we decided?
It is absolutely a Christmas movie. If you ask why, several reasons. Number one, throughout the entire thing, it is holiday music from top to bottom.
Oh, wow. We're actually going into this. Okay,
well, just for a second.
Go.
But there are people who say different things about it, and I disagree. But one, you look at the soundtrack, holiday soundtrack.
Okay.
Two, dialogue. They reference Christmas throughout the entire movie. And the theme is that of redemption, families coming together, which is very much Christmas.
Okay. And it does take place, the whole movie, on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's a holiday party that goes horribly wrong.
Did not think we were going to go into Die Hard, but here we are.
Well, I wore the sweater.
At least I just have a traditional holiday sweater.
Yeah,
so.
you're, yes, no one can question that.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's do this.
I love the topics. So what's interesting is there's often this interesting tension during the holiday season with people celebrating, getting very excited about the holiday, Christmas, but then also how that exists in HOA land.
Yeah, so how did this all start? Let's backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
We have 4 children. And one of our holiday traditions is to go and check out all the local Christmas lights. If you are from Orange County, there are many neighborhoods. We love Talega, Ladera, I'm trying to think, Nellagale, a ton of Mission Viejo, Dana Point. So many good holiday streets, candy cane lanes, all the things. And that's kind of become a tradition for us.
And so we were driving one day. And
this
was
horrible,
last year. Yeah, last year we hit horrible traffic.
Well, let's tell why. There's these 2 homes in Ladera that are very famous, quote unquote. One is the candy cane house. There's this amazing tree that dangles candy canes and they're free. So of course, every local stops by and you can even write a really cool letter to Santa. And it's just like the sweetest thing. So that's like our first hit.
Conceptually, it's wonderful. I love it in theory, but what happens is the traffic.
Okay, but let's talk about from that house, a couple streets down is also what they call Christmas Town. And it's this house that it almost looks like it's a Small World from Disneyland.
It looks
but
surreal.
The Christmas version, yes. So someone who owns that house must have some connection to Disney or something because it's out of this world and it's the must-see house in Orange County. That being said, the night that we went to go look, traffic was backed up, no joke.
I think it was like a 45-minute wait to get to the house.
Yes, within like a 2 mile, it was just completely deadlocked.
And where my mind goes immediately is, oh my God, the poor neighbors.
That was the first thing you said. You're like, I could never live it here.
It was my natural reaction, which, coming from this space, you start to think about, okay, it's great to celebrate the holidays, and I respect that, but, it has impact on a community. And
sometimes you do think for a second, okay, we want to see the lights. What if the next door neighbor just want to go to the grocery store and couldn't get back home?
What if they just want to come home from work?
Yeah, no, it's so true.
So that got us thinking, okay, maybe it'd be nice to sort of talk about bad HOAs or just HOAs in general in the context of the holidays.
Yes, and what that does for different neighborhoods.
Yeah, and sort of what are the best practices around it.
Okay, so how are we going to start? Let's see. Our biggest thing was oversized holiday displays. How much is too much? Well, we have very different types of people. I'm all for it. I want all the decorations, all the things. If I could be, was it the Griswolds?
Griswolds, yeah.
Griswolds. Okay. Best movie ever. I want to be the best house on my street.
It's no Die Hard, but yes, it's up there.
It's no Die Hard. But I'm telling you, my dream is I want to be that house. The Home Alone, the Griswold house, I want all the lights, all the things.
So I think that's great. So when you're looking at oversized holiday, and really what I'm conceptualizing here is the blow-ups, right? And so I think, 1 or 2 blow-ups, I don't see any issue with that. But where it becomes problematic, I think there's two scenarios. One, you have a beautiful view of something.
Yes.
And your neighbor elects to put a blow-up on top of their house or several blow-ups that blocks your view entirely.
Funny you just said that. On PCH right now in Laguna, it just made me think there's a giant blow-up that is oceanside, close to right when you Dana Point turns into Laguna Beach. And I can't help but think that has got to be blocking someone's view.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if that's in the context of an HOA or where the house is, but that blocking of the view could be problematic.
Yeah,
absolutely. But I think the bigger issue is those blowups require generators. And if you have 15 or 20, I mean, that's creating quite a disturbance, right? That generator makes noise.
It's that humming that seems never ending.
Endless humming. So, my thought there was, I'm not saying people shouldn't have 20. If you want 20, then embrace it. But, there could be some issues if it is creating sort of excessive noise.
Well, not only that, blow-ups look awesome at night, but during the day when they're deflated and laying flat on the grass, that is kind of an eyesore.
It's an imperfect decoration for sure.
This is true.
Yes.
But balancing that creativity with HOA rules.
Yeah.
You still have a grand display without overstepping those boundaries.
Yeah. And this is going to be a running theme. But, first thing you do is go to the CCNRs, which sounds a little bit safety patrol of me to say. And,
it does. It really does.
But, I think that's my job as a lawyer is to say, best practices. What are the best practices? And if you're going to go about, installing something like that, check the decibels, check what the regulations are in the CCNR, see if it's permitted. And assuming you do so, you should be in the clear.
Okay.
So, but that could be an area where there could be a problem.
Absolutely.
So I guess this show is really about identifying problematic situations in the holidays.
Yes.
Right. If you want to distill it. Another one though, which is in step with that, is bright lights.
Okay.
Right. And that's really where the Griswold comes into play.
Yes. This is my favorite one because lighting brightness, striking that balance. We have an 8-year-old and her bedroom is right in the front of the house. And I have gone a little wild with Christmas lights. We have the perfect balance of the colored lights along the perimeter of the roof mixed with the white icicles. Phenomenal. I feel like that is the perfect balance of Christmas lights, not to toot my own horn here. But her room faces those lights, and she has very kindly complained that it's too bright for her to sleep. So what is too much?
Well, I'm not worried about her because
we're safe from her, but
we provide for her. And if I was in the comment section, I might just recommend curtains. But, when you're a house that's facing massive light coming in and beaming in.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen, the Griswold's Christmas special, or what is it called?
What is it called? Lampoon Vacation?
Lampoon Vacation.
Yeah.
We're butchering that. I know I am.
Someone in the comments can be like, come on, guys.
Yeah. There is a great scene where they turn on the lights and it just floods the entire neighborhood with light. So, you have to be mindful of that. And I think the balance there is really the hours in which you have your lights on.
Okay.
If you have your lights on till 3 a.m., that might be problematic. So, if you are embracing Christmas lights, go to your CCNRs and see if there's any restrictions. The more modern ones are very articulate in terms of when you can have your lights on and off. Okay.
I wonder when the average person turns their Christmas lights off. If they're set to
I think
timers.
10 p.m. is reasonable, but that's not
10 p.m. No, wait, it is
standard.
so much later than that.
I go to bed early.
Ours shut off at midnight. I wonder what the standard. You think that's late?
I do, yes, but that's
gosh.
me.
Okay.
But if it's not articulated in the CCNRs, I always think, again, if this is the excessive lights, this is like you have 10 million lights on your house.
Right. Some people might call that quote unquote light pollution. I didn't hear that until recently.
Light pollution is a huge thing.
Who knew?
Yeah.
And curfew hours. Okay.
But if there is a question, you may want to ask your association. It's not a bad idea. Or kind of wait to see what happens.
Ask for forgiveness or permission. Who's to say?
But again, if you're looking at your house and you're wearing sunglasses because of the light and because it's so intense, that might, that might be a good time to reach out to the association.
Okay.
Right. Or at least check your CCNRs, or at least talk to your neighbors.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're trying to avoid disputes.
Decorating responsibly.
Yeah, that's what it should be called.
I like that. We're still creating a festive atmosphere.
Yes.
Regardless of whatever holiday you celebrate.
And the other thing you want to look into is when you need to take them down. Because you certainly don't want to be that neighbor who has your lights up in June or July.
Oh my gosh. And that's like a real thing because my dad, who is also an attorney, not an HOA attorney, but I'll never forget him losing his mind when we got a letter from the HOA saying that we had our Christmas lights up for too long. Granted, I think it might have been February 1st, but that apparently was in our CCNRs. Who knew? We were in Mission Viejo.
Yeah, the more modern ones are much more precise with the regulations. The older ones is where you have problems because it's unclear. So again, best practices. Maybe
I'm
just
curious
reach out.
as to what people consider within reason for taking lights down. That might be something I want to look into after this.
Yeah, fair enough. I think different communities have different standards.
Okay. I'm assuming by February, everyone's got to be down.
If you're approaching summer, that might be a red flag.
No, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. So the next one is noise and music. Now,
keeping it festive without going overboard.
Yeah. So listen, if you're blaring music, that could be problematic.
Regardless of it being a holiday or not.
Yeah, I mean, not only are you probably violating your CCNRs, but you could also be violating noise ordinances within the city.
Oh, interesting.
So every city sort of has a certain level of decibels that's permitted and time frames. And if you're violating that, that could be very problematic.
Well, we've all seen the really cool houses that have the radio stations
Well,
somehow connected.
That's genius. Yeah, if you can do that, you're going to sidestep all of these problems because it's contained to a car, right? It beams in, typically, I think it's an AM format, but you dial into the station.
Yeah, how does that work?
Science.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but that might be another alternative.
So there's nothing audible on the outside of the house that you know of?
When it's zoomed into the car, no.
Okay.
Typically not. And typically the lights coordinate with some soundtrack, and they actually, they're
right.
in
It matches with the music.
That is the noise and music. And that segues nicely into live acts and in-person events. Now, we've been in neighborhoods where they have actually hired the Grinch and they've hired Santa.
Okay, so for example, Nelliale.
Yes.
Nelliale is well known. It's a beautiful neighborhood and it is not gated, but there's these insane homes. And there's the one house that we love there. And usually, I believe maybe it's like Friday, Saturday nights in December, maybe closer to Christmas. But they actually have the most realistic Grinch we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And, all I really have to say about that is it creates a really bad traffic situation. And they encourage people to get out of the cars. Now, you have to remember there's ingress, egress. There's a lot of people driving through in front of the house. So, I mean, from an attorney's perspective, from a liability perspective, I don't think it'd be a bad idea to put some sort of cones or something just to alert other drivers who probably aren't paying attention because they're looking at other houses that there's people coming to the house.
Well, just you saying that makes me think of like a child running across the street, safety concern.
Yeah, exactly.
Those little cones that they have where it says like children not play, those types of things would probably be really beneficial during this time of year.
And that's sort of outside of the association world to an extent, but it is a liability issue potentially. And again, if we're going to best practices, how to, go through the holidays without any real disruption.
Well, it's striking that balance too, because like, as we know, I love being over the top, but at the same time, you don't want to be a bah humbug.
You're right, but you also
literally the Grinch.
You don't want to get hit with a fine either.
No, this is true. There's that happy medium, striking a balance.
And again, typically the angling of the show is very much going up against bad HOAs, right?
Yes.
But in the same breath, some associations have guidelines and rules that when you buy into a community, you're agreeing to, right?
Right.
So how do you stay within the lanes? How do you become respectful to other neighbors so you really don't have problems? Right.
Well, and kind of tying into the music, people that have the Grinch, or we know a couple that has hired live reindeer,
which is wild,
which is absolutely ludicrous. But, it goes along with, these are what brings people so much joy. And there's the Candy Cane Lane in San Clemente. There's for sure one in Dana Point. Mission Viejo has the all-time favorite where they have the surfboards. It strikes or brings huge tourism. I mean, no joke. Those surfboards that have all the reindeers' names on them are kind of like well known for the past couple decades.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't celebrate, and I'm not saying you shouldn't lean into.
You're
the
not being a bah humbug. You're just giving us best practices.
If there's a spectrum of bah humbug, I'm on the better part of that spectrum. I'm just saying if you're going to do it sort of within the bounds.
Okay, let me ask you this: could the argument be made that it actually increases home values?
That's an interesting question. I did think of that when we were driving into the neighborhood, and
because my first thought was, I want to live here, and your first thought was, you couldn't pay me to live here.
Correct. So we're a little bit different there, but when it comes to property values, my thought is if you have a very popular neighborhood that's been put on the map because of their displays, right? They're known for it. It's garnered publicity. There's been really positive news reporting about it.
Right.
I could see that increase property value. I really could.
I know people that want to live on the street in San Clemente. Actually, my sister's friend bought a home there literally just because she loves the idea of that Christmas time.
So I could see that. I mean, honestly, if we really wanted to get to the bottom of that, we'd have to bring on a real estate expert who could opine on fair market value.
I'd be curious. I think that's the next step. There you
go. But it's interesting as I see it because, to the extent that it's creating a nuisance, it's to the extent that it's really problematic, but it's increasing the house by 6-7% or more.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be the balance. That's how they swallow that pill a little bit better.
And then also, could it be a deterrent?
It could.
There's an older couple that just wants to have a quiet. These are their.
And this is more of a practical tip, but I mean, if you are buying and you are a Grinch, which there's nothing wrong with being a Grinch.
No, you were a Grinch before we were married.
No question.
I
respect people on that in that vein. Talk to your realtor.
Yes.
Ask if there's any unusual holiday activity.
Well, you always say that Orange County is a Whoville.
It is a Whoville.
So this is a good time before you buy to probably talk to your realtor, like you said.
Yeah.
And just kind of get the bearings on, hey, what are the holidays like here?
Yeah, if you're hyper antagonistic towards traffic, noise, light pollution,
Parties.
loud music, people frolicking around, then talk to your realtors. Identify that as a concern because these neighborhoods, as you've identified, are very well known.
Yes. And especially in Orange County, I don't know how it is in other locations, but every year I Google best Christmas lights in Orange County, and that's how I just update my list.
So there
I'm
you
crazy
go. So
like that.
it's accessible, and if you move in, you're kind of assuming that risk.
Absolutely.
But at least you can know you're going in eyes wide open.
True. Okay, fair enough.
All right. So holiday parties and their impact on the community. I would argue that parties in general or a holiday party just falls into a generalized party category.
Yeah.
I think you're observing just, parking rules and regulations, noise, all the things that you normally would sort of respect.
And we've talked about noise in past episodes, but kind of maybe go into that just for a second. Like, I didn't realize there's actually like a decibel level.
Yes.
Like, who knew?
And if you really want to nerd out, you can buy a machine and you can read the decibel levels.
Okay. As nerdy as that sounds, I would imagine that carries more weight if you do need to, reach out to your HOA.
Well, often it's on the flip side. So when I see that device come into play, it is a neighbor who is the subject of that nuisance.
Can you picture a neighbor holding the decibel machine?
I've actually,
Have you seen it? Have you heard of it?
I've done it. I've had experts go out. We've had, not in the context of holiday, but we've had pool generators or pool pumps that were placed really close to our client's property and just creating horrific noise all the time. So we brought a noise expert out and we did decibel readings, and it was well above the city ordinance.
Wow.
And so that's problematic, right? So the machines exist. You can buy one on Amazon, or if you really want to get sophisticated, you bring in an expert.
Wow. Okay. So this is like a real thing.
Absolutely real.
And then
thing.
also in relation to holiday parties. So parking, all those kinds of things. What are we looking at? Like, I think of our street specifically, like parking's an issue.
It's an issue. A lot of communities have designated parking, right? Guest parking is here. Permitted parking is here. And if your guests are parking in permitted parking, that's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
So maybe best practices there is before your party, notify the guests. Let them know, hey, this is all designated parking. Don't park in these spots. You might get towed.
Yeah. And especially I feel like in beach communities, it can be.
Yeah. Well, a lot of communities throughout Orange County have problems with parking or limited parking. Maybe that's said better.
And again, that's probably when you want to check your CCNRs.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
So yeah, I like that topic, actually. That's a good one. Holiday parties. So I think...
Major decorations and property values. We talked about that. Are they hurting or helping?
Yeah, again, it would be very interesting. If I had to guess, I think I would lean towards it would increase property value. Positive publicity, beautiful pictures. I think that might be a feather in that community's cap.
Absolutely. I kind of think of Home Alone for a second. And I would imagine the homes like that are just beautiful and that go all out. Who wouldn't want to live in a community like that? I mean, no, I guess there are people. But
I might be looking at one.
I might be looking at you pre-marriage and pre-kids. We've turned him. But
yes. But those are the big topics. Again, what I wanted to do with this show is identify, okay, where are the friction points? How to avoid having a run-in with the association or your neighbors, and how to kind of navigate the holiday season in a very smooth way.
Okay. And so as a neighbor, what are best practices? Like if for example, we throw a pretty badass, can I say badass on the air?
Yes, you
Christmas
can.
Eve
Yes.
party. Okay.
That's like a PG-13.
Is it? Okay. I just want to make sure. Christmas Eve party. Now, would it be common courtesy to let my neighbors know in advance?
I would. So now we're outside of sort of the law and my legal acumen. I think that's just human common courtesy.
Okay,
I hope
true.
we notify them. Yeah.
And if we have like live reindeer, anything that might potentially cause a disturbance.
Yeah. Now, an interesting perspective though on the show could be not the one who's facilitating, not the person who's putting up all the lights, but someone who is, just being like flooded with music and noise and traffic. What could they do? Right? How do you enforce your rights?
Yeah.
Right. So there, first things first, I mean, you look at the CCNRs, if you can identify violation, now I guess I'm going into Grinch mode, but
He's full Grinch now.
if they do violate, noise restrictions, light restrictions, notifying the association and the association.
Would you recommend going to the association first, or do you go to that neighbor personally first and attempt to resolve it amicably?
It depends on who the neighbor is. If you've had previous experiences with the neighbor and they've always been bad or hostile, right? Probably want to go to the association first. If historically you've had good relations with the neighbor, or maybe better said, you've never had an issue with the neighbor, maybe start talking to the neighbor. See if you guys can work out a compromise. But if that's not possible for whatever reason, typically it's personality, right?
Yeah.
Go to your association. You are paying money to the association, and the association should be, enforcing the rules and regulations. That's part of what you're paying for, right? And so if they don't do that, then you might have some real issue with the association. And that would be a failure to enforce, possibly a breach of fiduciary, where it would get really interesting if it was the board president who was engaging in all the in all the violations, right?
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
That could be a fun one. So yeah, there's a lot there, but you do have options.
Okay, so hopefully this helped. Best practices, common courtesy, strike that balance.
Yes.
Show your individuality, whatever holiday you celebrate, while being respectful at the same time.
Exactly.
Wait, one more question for you.
I was about to close out the show.
I know, I could tell. Wait. Okay, favorite holiday movie?
Die Hard. Of course, I got the sweater.
Over everything, though?
Yes.
Stop.
Yes.
Okay, I'll give it to you that it's a Christmas movie. That's your favorite holiday movie?
Absolutely. It's
over
wonderful.
Elf or
Action.
Home Alone?
Yeah, I feel like it's more realistic.
Wow. Okay. I thought for sure you were going to say Elf.
And yours? I feel like I
hard.
already know based on what you just said.
Elf, probably.
Elf.
But I mean, Home Alone's such a classic. But then they got a little carried away with Home Alone 2 and 3.
2 was fine. 3 was a dumpster fire. No offense.
Remind me what happened in 3.
Exactly.
Okay, there you go. So we'll stick with Home Alone 1.
All right, Home Alone 1 and over 2?
I'm trying to think, which one went to New York?
2.
Okay, that was 2. Oh, first, because it was Paris. Home Alone 1, they went to Paris.
The family did.
The family did. They left without.
Kevin did not.
Kevin did not make it. Okay. All right.
So 1 or 2? You didn't land on it.
1. I'm always down for the original. The OG will always win.
All right. With that, we will close out our first holiday special. Thank you guys for watching. Really, if you have comments, we encourage you to put them in, even if it's about
Why
Die
do I
Hard.
feel like we're going to get good comments on this one? I don't know.
It's mostly going to be focused
I
on
kind of
Home
want to
Alone
hear your
1.
stories.
Someone's going to come in and love Home Alone 3 and cast shade on us.
And if you catch a good house, take a picture and submit it. I kind of want to see the Orange County homes.
I don't know how you submit it on YouTube, but if you can figure that out, we
in the
embrace
comments, no?
I have no idea.
All right, we'll
if you can upload a photo in the comments,
give it a try.
God bless you.
Okay.
All right, guys, thanks for watching and look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks so much.